How's it going? I'm Anthony, and these are stories of my life. For those of you just joining us for the first time, these videos are a cognitive therapy tool for me. I have taken some head injuries over the years. My memory is failing me, and the doctors have suggested that I make these videos to preserve the memories I still have, as well as to inspire some of you all who are involved in these events to provide me with details that I may have already lost, or otherwise remind me of things I've completely forgotten. In which case, then I can either remake an old video with the new details or make a brand new video and share that with you all. So I'm sure you get the idea. At any rate, the events of this video do take place not long after the events of the previous video. If you haven't seen that, feel free to check that out. And so it is 1990. I am living with my mom out in Grand Terrace, Ritchie Canyon area. We moved out there not too long before that, and getting ready to go into 8th grade at Terrace Hills Junior High. And my dad had taken me to that soccer camp that I mentioned in the last video, and now a couple weeks later he's going to take me fishing. And my dad wasn't one to just do lake fishing or river fishing or anything like that. You know, he wanted to go big or go home, basically. So he picked me up and we drove clear out to Balboa Beach. Now, this particular fishing trip, we had done this already at least once, maybe twice before. I don't really remember the first time we did this, but I do know that this was, I think, the last time we did it. But either way, we went out to Balboa Beach, and if you've never been to Balboa Beach in California, it's pretty cool. You get out there, you see where all the boats are parked right there at the harbor, and down one of the roads, actually I think it's two roads, at least it was back then, it could be more now, but there was a variety of eclectic shops and entertainment type of things, restaurants, arcades, you name it. And it was pretty neat. I loved it as a kid, and hell, I loved it when I became a teenager, and then some. But the main building for Balboa had like this ballroom facility upstairs and conference rooms, whatever else. But then they also had this little fishing tackle place that was right through the main entrance on the right. And there you can get any fishing stuff that you needed. But the shop also worked as kind of a liaison for anybody who owned a boat in the harbor, where you could charter a boat, or some of the boat owners just ran regular fishing trips, and you can jump on those. And so that's essentially what we did. And so my dad had booked this trip, and we showed up there at, God, it was late, probably like 9, 10 o'clock at night, something like that, to hop on this boat. And so it was dark outside on this particular weekend. There was no moon, so it was really, really dark. And I can remember waiting for this boat, just sitting there bored out of my mind because nothing's open, none of the arcades are open. But eventually the boat comes and we hop on. And the boat was kind of what you'd expect from a fishing boat. It wasn't too big. I couldn't give you a foot range on how big it was, but you had your fishing ports all the way around the thing. They had sleeping quarters down into the boat that had your military style racks, and I mean, it even had the stupid old school military cotton blankets. They had green and gray, funny as that is. But yeah, they had that, and then above that was the galley, the kitchen, and then in front of the galley was where the captain drove the boat. So you get there and you unpack, you claim a rack, and so my dad and I had gotten one, and you typically just kind of lay down and wait for the boat to go because they're still waiting for people to come in. And eventually the boat takes off and starts heading out towards Catalina Island. And I remember at one point I wanted to see what it looked like outside. So my dad was still laying down, so I walk outside. And I'm leaning up against the side of the boat as we're cruising. And then I looked up. And there was no moon. So the stars just were absolutely phenomenal. Now, what's sad is not many people get the chance to be out in the middle of nowhere where there's no light, nothing, and be able to look up and see the stars. When you think about it, when was the last time you were really able to go out to where there was no light surrounding you, no moon in the sky, and see the details of the Milky Way? You don't get to do that very often. And there's a lot of people that have never actually done it. They're just completely oblivious and unaware to what's above them. And so this might have been the first time I really grasped that. And it was completely overwhelming. And I look up and it's just, oh my God, you can just see it just all over the sky, just mind-boggling, completely mind-boggling. I can remember seeing some shooting stars and just completely just lost. And I remember some guy coming up, seeing me staring at the sky, and he starts talking to me. And I remember him knowing a lot about the constellations and, you know, what different stars were, or even actually there were a lot of them, the ones that he was pointing out were planets, but pointing out certain planets and, you know, what was what. And it was really, really neat. Just totally blown away by that. And, you know, eventually we get going and we stop just off of Catalina Island, some fishing spot out there. And my dad eventually comes out because he feels the boat not moving anymore, and we get our fishing gear set up. Now everybody now is getting all set up. We start casting our lines and doing our thing. You know, and it was a pretty good spot because, you know, people all around us were pulling some things in. I remember my dad pulled in a variety of different things. I didn't quite have the patience for fishing at that age, but it was a good experience because it helped me start to learn it. And I can remember at one point pulling in a barracuda, and this thing was badass. And it was tough, man. It was a good-sized barracuda, so I was just sitting there fighting it forever. And I'd never seen a barracuda before. And I don't think it was the first fish that I hooked and reeled in, but it definitely was one that I remember because that sucker was tough. We finally got it in, and then after we got it into the boat, I remember just being blown away, you know, because it's a nice long thing, mean-looking thing. For those of you that know what a barracuda is, think of Finding Nemo, the big mean fish at the beginning that takes out Marlin's wife and the eggs. Yeah, that's a barracuda. And I learned the hard way that this thing's teeth are really freaking sharp, because I was trying to unhook my hook from its mouth, but I didn't hold the fish's head down. I had its body, but I didn't hold its head down. So as I'm unhooking it, the fish jumps and flat slices my hand. So I end up with my hand wrapped up, you know, a little later. But anyway, yeah, mean little fish. I was all pissed at it too. I kicked it after I got my hand. But it was fun experience, you know. And barracuda, they're really, really good, really yummy to eat. But if I remember right, they suggest you don't eat a lot of them because I think they have a higher mercury content than a lot of other fish. So, but they are really good. Yeah, and then we'd move from spot to spot to spot. And at one point, I was sitting there walking around, you know, looking at stuff, and somebody that actually worked on the boat was doing some fishing. And then at some point, he hooks something. And he's like, oh, I got something on the line. And I think he knew how big it was. But then he sees me standing there and he goes, here, kid. I was like, what? He goes, reel it in. And I can remember it had this cork handle, you know, fishing rod, you know, cork handles on there. Because my hands ended up with all these blisters. But anyway, I'm just sitting there fighting this thing. He even puts a little belt around me so I can hook the fishing rod into the belt and just start reeling. Oh God, I'm sitting fighting. I must have fought this thing for about 20 minutes. God, it took forever in my mind. I had people all around the boat staring at me. My dad was sitting there laughing hysterically as I'm fighting this thing. Eventually, and I'm exhausted. I'm soaked in sweat. I'm having the hardest time with it. I finally get this bastard up into the boat, and it was a 20-pound yellowtail. Might have been like 25 pounds, 25-pound yellowtail. Like, holy cow, this thing was so tough. Like, that was a big bastard. Got it into the boat, set the rod down, and I'm wiped out completely. So, we get it in and, put it in the bag, and my dad keeps fishing. I just like, Dad, I'm going to go lay down for a little bit. So I go lay down. I don't know how long I was out, but, I come back out, and it's a lot brighter now. When I was reeling in that yellowtail, the sun had already started coming up. But it's a lot brighter now. We're getting into breakfast, maybe even lunch period. And I decide I'm going to go up into the galley. And, my dad had given me money. So, I'm going to go up in the galley, get something to eat. And I remember the galley cook was some big heavy-set guy, that spent half his time eating as he was cooking. So, the guy, trust me, the stereotypical guy you want to see behind the grill. So I walk in there, I order some food, and I think I ordered a cheeseburger or something like that. And I go sit down to wait for the food. And then there's like a good 5, 6, 7 guys sitting around this table, and they're playing cards. But they're playing cards, and they're making bets, but they're just using coins. Everything from penny, nickel, dime, quarter. I think there might have even been a 50-cent piece or something out there, but they just had coins. They weren't playing with any real money. And I'm sitting there watching them play, and I asked if somebody would teach me, because I didn't know how to play poker, And somebody says, well, we will, but you got to have some coins to bet. Okay, so I run back down to my dad, because I'd already spent all my money. And I asked my dad, hey, Dad, they want to teach me how to play cards. Can I have some change? And he empties his pockets, gives me a bunch of change. I go run back up there, set it all out, and they deal me in the next hand. And that was where I learned how to play poker. So I'm sitting there, 12 years old, at a table with these, 40, 50, 60-year-old guys playing poker with, nickels, quarters, and dimes, and having a good old time. And that was where I learned how to play. Never stuck to poker, but, it was fun to learn it at that particular moment. And, I got my burger. Burger was great. And what was also cool about that galley is if you caught a fish, you can bring it in to the cook, and the cook would prep it and fry it up for you right there if you wanted to eat it while you were out on the boat. I don't know if it costs any extra, but he would do that for you, which I thought was pretty neat. So, but yeah, it was a really neat experience, because then we got out there, and you could see Catalina Island. You could see the little city of, I think it's called Avalon, that's right there. Off back behind Catalina, to the left, if I remember right, was San Clemente Island. And for those of you that don't know, San Clemente Island is uninhabited, with the exception of a tiny little military shack. We'll call it an installation that you can park your boats at, because they do a lot of training on San Clemente Island, which I'll eventually get into from my time in the military, because I ended up there. And I spent 2 weeks on that island. But it was a bombing range. And we were also fortunate that even on that weekend that we were out there, you could actually see the naval and marine aviators dropping bombs on San Clemente Island, and we were fishing not too far off of it. So that was really neat to see. So, but I mean, it was cool. One of the other things that was interesting while we were out there was we got to learn that there's a lot of fishing laws, and some idiot decided that, well, when they caught a fish, they caught this gigantic black bass. Now, I didn't know anything about this, but this guy caught this black bass, and he pulled it in, and somebody on the boat saw it and made it a point to let the guy know that that's a protected fish. You should not be, it's not something you probably want to keep, if you get inspected when we get back, blah, 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 blah. So they gave this guy fair warning. So it's not like he did not know what he had. So the procedure was, you catch something like that, hey, cool, good for you, unhook it, throw it back in the water. That's not what this guy did. This guy decided he wanted to keep it because it was a big fish. So he kept it, threw it in his bag, and that was that. Now, I don't know if somebody on the boat reported it or what, but I think they acted to him like, hey, that's on you if you get caught, blah, 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 but I think they reported it. Anyway, they're probably obligated to report it, to be honest. Anyway, I can remember when we got back into the harbor, some, I guess it's a fish and game warden or somebody came onto the boat, and was standing there as people were leaving, and he was checking bags, because we all had these burlap bags for the fish, and sure enough, they found dude's black bass, and he ended up getting arrested for it. I would imagine it would have just been a ticket, fine, here you go, but no, they actually cuffed him and dragged him off, and it might have been not just because he did that, unknowingly it would have been a ticket, but the fact that they warned him in advance and they decided to do it anyway, I think that was what led to the actual cuffs on wrists scenario. But, so yeah, if you catch protected fish, throw it back. But, it was a really neat experience. And then by the time we got back, everything on Balboa, the whole harbor, all the shops and everything were all open. So then my dad would come out, even though we stunk like fish and whatever else, we would end up going around playing some video games and do all that and then take off. So it was really fun. That was a great experience. I wish I could do that again. Parents, try it with your kids. Give it a shot. Call Balboa, whatever, first to see if they have that fishing tour or fishing trip. But it was only like half a day, maybe a day, and it was an absolute blast. Everything about it, from seeing the stars to the experience of fishing, riding in the boat, because there was a couple times they got to the point where they were hauling butt. It was a pretty cool boat, and just everything about it. It was just really, really cool. So, and that's my perspective on life. I would rather spend money on experiences rather than things, because the things that you buy, you can't take with you. Now, granted, things can enhance experiences. That much I'll give you. But when it comes down to it, life is all about the experiences you have. So whether you're raising children or just growing up yourself or just living, spend your money and your time on the new experiences. Not just reliving old experiences, but new experiences. Do something you've never done. Try it. If you don't like it, oh well, fuck it. At least you can say you did it, you got the experience from it. But it might teach you something about what you do like. You're learning what you don't, but it might point you in a direction to try another experience. And who knows, maybe you will try that experience again. But it's all about experiences. Give your children the experiences. They deserve it. Give yourself the experience. You deserve it. Experiences. 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 That's what it's all about. Because there's going to come a day where you might end up like me, losing your memory. You might end up losing a lot more than just your memory. I've had some people have had some tragic things happen to them, and I've lost a lot of good friends, but one thing that they have said, that when it came down to it in their last moments of life, they can think back on some of those experiences they had, and it's those experiences that really put them at peace. Because they lived. And that's what living is. That's what living is. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.